Hi again, guys. It's reading time. You don't need anything right away, but you will need your reading hardback and your reading workbook. But first, I'm going to read you a story called Building Liberty. Okay, and this is by Susan Yoder Ackerman. And it's in a letter form. And there's actually a couple of letters, and they're coming from a girl in Paris. Her name is Colette Gaget, and she's writing to her cousin. And these happened a long time ago. Back in 1876 is the first letter that we're going to read. And it's talking about, what do you think? Building liberty. The Statue of the Liberty, right? A Statue of Liberty, and how the Statue of Liberty came to be. All right, so you listen while I read the story. Okay, Building Liberty by Susan Yoder Ackerman. October 28th, 1876. Dear Cousin Philip, happy 100th birthday. Of course, I know you're only 8 like me, but Papa says that now your country, the United States, has had its freedom for a whole century. Did you know that French children like me, and grown-ups too, are giving money to make a birthday gift for your country? It's being made right here in Paris by Papa's friend, Mr. Bartholdi. He is making a gigantic sculpture to remind people of liberty. Papa says it will be the tallest statue in the world, but it will take a long time to finish. Your cousin, Colette Gaget. June 14th, 1878, so 2 years later. Dear Cousin Philip, you asked so many questions in your last letter. I guess now that Mr. Bartholdi is building his statue in Papa's workshop, you think I know everything. Well, I'll tell you what I can. First, Mr. Bartholdi took clay and made a 4-foot-high model of a lady. He made a torch of freedom for her to carry. He made her walking away from broken chains. She carries a tablet with the date of American independence on it, July 4th, 1776. And her crown will have 7 rays to represent the 7 seas and the 7 continents of the world. When Mr. Bartholdi was happy with his small statue, he made a bigger and bigger copies out of plaster until he had one that was 38 feet tall. It was so large, Papa built a special shed in the workyard to hold it. But it was only 1/4 of the size Mr. Bartholdi wants the statue to be when it is finally done. You will not believe what they did next. They cut the plaster model into big slices. That's because they can't build a full-size model of the statue in one piece. It would be too big. So they have to make one section at a time instead. They take each slice and measure very carefully over and over in order to make a full-size copy. There's so much to do. Papa has 50 men working on it every day. Your cousin, Colette Gaget. And there's a picture of it. That's when it was a clay sculpture. Now, we don't know what Cousin Philip writes back to her. We're just reading this from Colette's perspective. January 5th, 1880. So 2 more years have gone by. Dear Cousin Philip, these days there's hardly room for the cat to walk through Papa's shop. There are layers of the Statue of Liberty everywhere. Each layer is about 30 feet wide and 12 feet high, as big as a house. You asked me if the finished statue will be made of plaster. Oh no, it's going to be made of thin copper. To get the copper the right shape, wooden molds made of lots and lots of boards are built using the plaster model. Then, when sheets of copper are hammered into the wooden molds, they will be exactly the same shape as the model. It's so clever. Papa's workmen will then bolt and rivet the sheets of copper together to make the statue. But there was a big problem. Mr. Bartholdi didn't know how he was going to make the thin copper strong enough so that the statue wouldn't bend or blow over in the wind. He thought of filling the statue with sand or stones, but it was much too big. Luckily, he talked to Mr. Eiffel, the man who builds bridges. Some people call him the magician of iron. Mr. Eiffel had the great idea of making a wrought iron skeleton inside the statue to hold it up. Your cousin, Colette Gaget. Do you notice that Mr. Eiffel? That was the guy who designed the Eiffel Tower that stands in Paris. And his name was Alexander Eiffel. So he's the guy that designed the Eiffel Tower. So that's pretty cool. August 20th, 1884, 4 years later. Dear Cousin Philip, the statue is finished. She towers over the buildings of Paris. On July 4th, Mr. Bartholdi proudly led American officials up the spiral staircase inside the statue to her crown. The view of the city from there is wonderful. I often stand by the workyard gate to take money from people who want to see her before she goes to America. Her reddish copper color will become a dull green in time, but I think she will always be beautiful. I'm glad the Americans don't have the money yet to finish building the pedestal where she will stand. I will miss her when she goes to her island in New York. I can't remember Papa's shop without the statue. Your cousin, Colette Gaget. So that's why our statue's green, because it's made of copper, and copper is a metal that it takes a lot for it to rust. So what happens is it turns green. It gets this patina on it, and that's what is protecting the metal itself. Okay, the patina will cover the entire statue and make that green glow. She's not really supposed to be green. She's supposed to be like a reddish copper. Copper is a reddish color. But because she's out in the weather, when the rain, comes down on copper, it makes this patina on it, and then it covers it up so it doesn't rust. Okay. On March 30th, 1885, so that was 1 year after her last letter. Dear Cousin Philip, Mr. Bartholdi has lost his patience. He is taking the statue apart and packing it up. He wants to see it standing in New York Harbor, coming ready or not. Each piece is carefully marked before it is packed. I hope it won't be too hard for the Americans to figure out how to puzzle the piece together. There are more than 200 huge crates. I'm glad the American school children are sending their pennies to help pay for the huge pedestal the Statue of Liberty needs to stand on. It's so nice that they like the gift the French are giving them. And here's another gift just for you. When the ship arrives in New York in June with all the pieces of the Statue of Liberty, I will be waving from the deck. Look for me. I'm all grown up now. Till then, Colette Gaget. And then there's a picture of the Statue of Liberty. Okay. All right. So that's the story, part of the story of how the French gave us the Statue of Liberty. Now, I want you to open up your reading hardbacks to page 86. We're going to talk about our vocab words for this lesson. Okay. Page 86 and 87, I'll read the story. Harlem artists. In the 1920s and 1930s, many African American artists moved to Harlem, a part of New York City. During this time, writers, artists, and musicians created glorious paintings, sculptures, stories, poems, and music that are enjoyed to this day. Palmer Hayden lived in a small town before he moved to Harlem. He used his memory to paint scenes of the country. He also painted scenes of lively city life in Harlem. Augusta Savage was born in Florida in 1892. She felt that if she stayed in her small town, her chances of success would be ruined. She moved to Harlem and became a famous sculptor and teacher. Romare Bearden grew up in New York City. Bright colors streak across many of his collages. He loved jazz and blues music. In one of his collages, Romare Bearden used bright colors to show how the music made him feel when a piano player's fingers crept across the keys or a trombone player yanked on the slide. All right, so you see a lot of our vocab words there in highlighted there. So our first word is ruined. Okay, I put the transparency up across this. Hopefully you can see it better. So our first word is ruined. If something is ruined, it is no longer any good. So I'm pretty sure things of yours have gotten ruined in the past, right? Maybe by a sibling or maybe by yourself, right? Number 2 is crept. If you crept, you move slowly and carefully so that you wouldn't be seen or heard. So have you ever crept across the floor? Try it. You want to move slowly, carefully, so that you're not heard and you're not seen. Number 3 is glorious. If something is so wonderful that you can hardly believe it, it is glorious. Kind of like a glorious sunset or a glorious sunrise, right? All right, number 4, memory. A memory is something you remember. I'm sure you have lots of memories. Number 5, streak. To streak is to move very quickly from one place to another so that you kind of are like in a streak, okay, like a blur, not a blare, a blur, right? Okay, so kind of crept and streak are kind of opposites, right? One's moving slowly and carefully so as to not to be heard or seen, and streak is to move very quickly so that you're a blur. All right, and then number 6, yanked. If you yanked something, you gave it a quick, hard pull. Like you might have to yank the cord to start a lawnmower, a walk-behind lawnmower. Sometimes you have to pull on the cord. You yank the cord. Maybe one of you have yanked your sibling's hair. I hope not, right? But that's a good one too, right? Yanked. Okay, so you pull something quickly and hard. All right, let's look in our reading workbooks and turn to page 152. Page 152. If I can find the page. There we go. All right, so this page right here, page 152. Use the vocabulary words from the box below to complete the sentences. So read the sentences, okay, and find a word that fits in the sentence correctly. Take a picture of it and send it to me. So I want to see page 152. And if you need, let me hold this up quick because I'm not going to take this picture. Hold that up. You can pause the video and you can use that as your guide to help you in case you forget what the words mean. All right, so you can pause the video on this and finish page 152. When you're done, take a picture and send it to me. All right, guys, bye.